I'm recording outside today. The sun is not in an optimal place in the sky, and there's probably going to be like too much background noise, but it'll be fine. Um, and you get these nice flowers and trees behind me. We'll see how this goes, but whatever. I'll make it work. My videos are not exactly high quality in any way, but high production value particularly. So today I am talking about George Martin's latest blog post. It's not his latest blog post, but you know the one I'm talking about. If you don't know the one I'm talking about, you can go to his blog and read it, and then you'll know what I'm talking about. So everything I have done on this channel, or basically everything, and most of what I will do in the future, has basically just been me talking at a camera with no notes and no preparation, pretty much. This video is going to be even more in that direction than usual. I'm just going to be rambling at you, except that I do actually have George's blog post pulled up on my phone so I can look at it. And I also happen to have the Preston Jacobs, the almost 1 hour long Preston Jacobs video on this blog post. Now, how Preston Jacobs managed to spend 1 hour talking about this short little blog post, I honestly have no idea, even though I watched the whole video. We will see. I really should probably just be doing this video as a reaction to the Preston Jacobs video. I don't know why I'm not, but I'm not. I just decided not to. Even though I should. I think I'd be good at reaction videos. I should really do some of those at some point. Anyway, this blog post is nominally about an adaptation of Howard Waldrop's story, A Dozen Tough Jobs. So that's what the blog post is nominally about. Howard Waldrop was a friend of George Martin's, who I believe died pretty recently, and Martin has been very involved in adapting a lot of Howard Waldrop's short stories and novellas into films that have been showing at film festivals and things like that. So that's what it's nominally about. However, most of it's not actually about that, because in the middle of this blog post there is this 3-paragraph tangent, which not the entire thing is in parentheses. For some reason, only the first paragraph is in parentheses, and the second two aren't. But in this side tangent, George says a lot of things. And you know what? I agree with, like, everything he said. When I read this, I was just like, let's go, George. What does George actually say in this not-so-little side note? So a lot of people are saying he's complaining about the fact that his fans don't care about anything other than Winds of Winter, and that they've also given up on him actually writing Winds of Winter, which is true. A lot of his fans have given up on him actually writing Winds of Winter. But if you look at this blog post, well, he mentions a lot of the other stuff that he's done other than A Song of Ice and Fire, and stuff that he's doing currently other than working on Winds of Winter. And you know what? Of course he would like people to care about these things. He would like people to care about the short stories that he already wrote. You know what? I would also like people to care about the short stories and the novels that he wrote previously. I haven't read all of them, but I have read Dream Songs Volume 1. He mentions A Song for Laia, which is in there, which is very good. He mentions Sand Kings, which is an award-winning short story that is also in there. It's very good and very well acclaimed, but very few people have actually read it in the recent past, as far as I can tell. There's a lot of good stuff he's written. I've read Dying of the Light. I'm going to read The Armageddon Rag probably pretty soon. I have a signed copy of the Armageddon Rag. Uh, so a lot of that stuff is really good. Also, I would like people to read it. I'm sure George would also like people to read it. It's clear he would. It's clear he would like for people to care about the things he's doing. But, like, I think people are being a bit too harsh with that criticism. The issue is not that people only care about A Song of Ice and Fire. That's fine. Like, if you only care about A Song of Ice and Fire and you don't want to read any of the other stuff, a lot of people haven't read any of his other stuff, and I'm not sure why, but you don't like his other stuff, you don't want to read it, whatever, that's fine. That's not the issue. The issue is that people, and the issue that George has, I think, is that people cannot accept that he does care about those things. And that's one of the things he says at the end. You don't care about any of those, I know. That's a quotation. You don't care about anything but Winds of Winter. You've told me so often enough. Thing is, I do care about them. Now, other thing, in Preston Jacobs' video, he went on this insanely, absurdly long tangent about the sentence structure of that last sentence, which was the most nonsensical critique I have ever heard in my life. Preston Jacobs, and, I'm sure if I met Preston Jacobs, I would like him. I agree with some of the things he says. I disagree. I don't think anybody agrees with everything that Preston Jacobs says. He's smart, though. He seems like a decently nice guy, but, he's a bit, not so nice sometimes, too. So, and that video was just really? It just devolved into just really a lot of nonsensical critiques of, the writing of George's blog post, which is actually written pretty well. It's not as polished as his actual novels, of course, but it's actually written pretty well. The thing Preston Jacobs was saying about that one sentence, and he's saying, thing is, I do care about them. Actually, we should get rid of the do, or at least we shouldn't italicize it and emphasize it or something. It was totally nonsensical. It works very well in context, the way he wrote this. He was also Preston Jacobs. That's who he is. He is Preston Jacobs. Was complaining about the order of the ways in which the order in which George writes, the order in which George lists some of the short stories that he wrote in the past and other projects, anthologies that he has written in the past. It's you may hate everything else I have ever written. The Hugo Winners and the Hugo's Losers, A Song for Elia, and Dying of the Light, Sand Kings. I've read all three of those, by the way. And Beauty and the Beast, which I don't think anybody's actually watched. This Tower of Ashes and The Stone City. Old Mars and Old Venus and Rogues and Warriors and Dangerous Women. And Preston Jacobs was like, well, it's almost chronological, but then it's not chronological. So, how is George coming up with the logic of the logic for what order he wrote these things? I'm like, you're analyzing it way, way too deeply, okay? If you look at that end part there, which, maybe this is how the Preston Jacobs video was, an hour long, because he spent all his time on this, was, over-analyzing the part at the end there, which is a list of anthologies that George and Gardner Dozois have edited together. And I believe Gardner Dozois also died recently, possibly. Old Mars and Old Venus and Rogues and Warriors and Dangerous Women. And Preston Jacobs is like, well, it's not chronological, and it's like the order of those things doesn't make sense. It's George didn't put as much thought into this as he usually puts into things. It's not edited enough. And it's listed in that order because that is the way that the sentence flows best. I feel like it's really, kind of obvious. It's not like George was like, I must list all my short stories and anthologies that I've edited in chronological order, or in like order of how much I like them, or in order of how popular, or how many awards they've won, or something like. No, he just wrote it. If you look at that old part there, the end of that sentence, old Mars and old Venus, and rogues and warriors and dangerous women. That is a sequence of things that flows well. If you put it in some other order, it would not flow as well. George is a good writer, and he just wrote it, probably instinctually, in the way where it flows best. Putting Old Mars and Old Venus, those are the names of two anthologies, next to each other in the list makes complete sense, because they have this similarity in name, and not putting them next to each other would be a bit weird. And then rogues, warriors, dangerous women, it's the length of the word, number of syllables is increasing. So the sentence flows better. If it said old Mars and old Venus and dangerous women and warriors and rogues, that doesn't flow as well, right? You can go look at it and play with all the different ways to order the words in this sentence and see if the other ones work as well. I can tell you already, they don't. George just wrote it in the natural way to make the sentence flow. Whoa. So maybe I've banished that ray of sunlight, hopefully. There's still a lot more rays of sunlight shining down on me, but maybe I've banished the annoying one. I probably haven't. It'll probably come back. What I want to do now is I'm going to hopefully quickly, but probably not, go through a couple of the other things George says. Because, as I said, I really, don't agree with the criticisms of this that people have. He goes through and he says, "You've given up on me," or on the book, right? And he's not saying all his fans believe this. That's very clear. That he's saying some people say these things. I will never finish Winds. Lots of people say that. If I do, I will never finish Dream of Spring. If I do, it won't be any good. I ought to get some other writer to pinch hit for me. I'm going to die soon anyway, because I'm so old. I lost interest in A Song of Ice and Fire decades ago. And that last claim is one of the other main things that he's addressing. Now, first I want to say, people say all of those things. People say all of those things pretty regularly. This is one of the other things in the Preston Jacobs video where, he and the other guy who was talking to him, they sounded pretty reasonable. They acknowledged that people do say most of those things. But there was one of them where they were like, oh, actually, people don't really say that. That's not true. People do say all of those things. I'm not even that, deep into the fandom, and I see people say all of these things. People say he won't finish Winds, which is a reasonable thing to say. If you think he's not going to finish Winds, you can say that. But people do say that. They do say that he won't finish Dream of Spring. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't finish Dream of Spring. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't finish Winds either, but I hope he does. So people obviously say those because those are honestly reasonable things to say. People also say that it won't be any good, right? That's definitely that kind of sentiment I see all the time. And I don't agree with it. And that's something that, I kind of have a problem with. Why don't you think it's going to be any good? Because everything else George has written has been good. There are people who don't like Dance and Feast, but I don't agree. I love Dance and Feast. Fire and Blood is amazing. Night of the Seven Kingdoms is amazing. And it's just why do people say that? And people do say, Sanderson should... Nobody says that seriously. That's stupid. Sanderson shouldn't finish it. But people say that. And people say he's going to die soon, which hopefully he doesn't die, but he is old. And people say he lost interest in, Which, that's the other thing that I have a problem with, and that seems to be the biggest thing that Martin has a problem with. Because, as he says at the end of this, after asserting that he does care about all of his side projects and all of the short stories that nobody reads, oh, this ray of sun is back, isn't that nice? Okay. He says, and I care about Westeros and Winds as well. And that's one of the things that I really liked about this, because people say that he doesn't care anymore. I see that all the time, right? People are like, oh, George Martin doesn't care about this anymore. Well, I find it pretty reassuring, honestly, for him to say that he does. However, in this paragraph, we also get the one thing that kind of worries me. Okay, so now that the sun is behind this tree, hopefully it stays there. What is it that kind of worries me? It's probably the same weird thing that you saw, if any of you watching this, if anybody watching this, has read the Not a Blog post. And to demonstrate this, I will just read this last paragraph of George's tangent. And I do care about Westeros and Winds as well. I read that already. The Starks and Lannisters and Targaryens, Tyrion and Asha, which, by the way, a lot of other people have pointed this out. It's possible that Preston Jacobs pointed this out, but by a lot of other people, I mean like people in his comment section. Tyrion and Asha is just such a random choice of characters. Like Tyrion's not, but Asha. I think George just really likes Asha for some reason. I don't know. Yeah, I really don't know. Anyway, the Starks and Lannisters and Targaryens, Tyrion and Asha, Dany and Daenerys. The dragons and the direwolves, I care about them all. More than you can ever imagine. And then he ends there. He ends the tangent there, and then he just sort of goes back to talking for one paragraph at the end about the adaptation of 1,000 Tough Jobs, which I don't think is that weird. It's another thing Preston Jacobs said is weird, that he thinks is weird at least, is that transition there. But honestly, I think More Than You Can Ever Imagine, it's a pretty natural place to end the side note. So, what do I have a problem with? I don't have a problem with anything. I just like Dany and Daenerys. Is this intentional? Presumably that's intentional. We'll read it again. Well, I'll read the part of the sentence until then. The Starks and Lannisters and Targaryens, Tyrion and Asha, Dany and Daenerys. Yeah. And Preston was joking. Preston Jacobs and the other guy were joking about this. We should make a theory video about how Dany and Daenerys are different people now, which they should absolutely do. That would be funny. Anyway, what's that doing there? They're clearly Dany and Daenerys are not different characters. But was that deliberate? I really hope that was deliberate.